The radio crackled with desperation. "Contact!" Multiple hostiles were surrounded, taking heavy fire from all sides. "We need immediate support." Sergeant First Class Bradley Thompson's voice cut through the static, high and tight with stress. "They've got us pinned in the compound. RPGs, machine guns, we can't move. Casualties mounting, enemies everywhere." At Forward Operating Base Kalsu in central Iraq, the Quick Reaction Force scrambled to mount a relief operation. But 2 kilometers away on a desert ridge overlooking the city of Mahmoudiya, Staff Sergeant Gabriella Cooper had already seen the trap closing. Through her rifle scope at dawn, she'd watched as 32 insurgents moved into position around an abandoned industrial compound where the Ranger Patrol would take their mid-morning rest stop. She'd tried to warn them, but communications had been intermittent in the urban terrain. Now, her brothers were trapped in a kill zone, and Gabriella was the only thing standing between them and annihilation. She pressed her eye to the scope of her M110 sniper rifle, found her first target at 520 meters through the dust and smoke, controlled her breathing, and fired. Drop a comment and subscribe, because what happened in the next 20 minutes would become legend in the 75th Ranger Regiment. Staff Sergeant Gabriella Cooper was 28 years old, U.S. Army Ranger with 5 years in regiment and 4 combat deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. 5'7", lean and muscular from daily training, dark brown hair and a tactical braid, hazel eyes that could read terrain like a book. From Philadelphia originally, she'd joined the Army at 21 after 2 years of college, specifically aiming for the Rangers and Sniper School. Her M110 semi-automatic sniper system was equipped with a Leupold Mark IV scope, suppressor to reduce signature, and a Harris bipod for stability. She carried 180 rounds of 7.62 mm match-grade ammunition. In 4 deployments, Gabriella had accumulated 178 confirmed kills, a number that was about to increase significantly. The mission had started 48 hours earlier, when intelligence indicated a high-value target. An insurgent cell leader responsible for coordinating IED attacks against coalition forces was operating in Mahmoudiya, a city 30 kilometers south of Baghdad. The Ranger Patrol, 12 men under Sergeant First Class Bradley Thompson, had been tasked with conducting reconnaissance in the industrial district, gathering intelligence on insurgent safehouses and weapons caches. Gabriella had been assigned as their long-range overwatch, a standard practice for patrols in hostile urban areas. While the Rangers moved through the city on foot, she would position herself outside the urban terrain with clear sight lines, providing early warning and precision fire support if needed. She'd left FOB Kalsu at 0300 hours, moving through darkness to reach her position before sunrise. The ridge she'd chosen was perfect, elevated above the flat Iraqi desert 800 meters from the industrial compound, with clear lines of sight across multiple approaches. By 0530 hours, she was in position, camouflaged among the rocks, rifle set up, scanning the area through her scope. At 0615 hours, as the Iraqi sun began burning off the morning cool, Gabriella spotted the first insurgents. 3 men carrying AK-47s, moving with purpose through the industrial district, checking buildings. She tracked them through her scope, noting their tactical movements and communications equipment. These weren't random fighters. They were organized, disciplined, planning something. Over the next 90 minutes, she watched as more fighters moved into the area. They came in small groups, 2 or 3 at a time, positioning themselves in buildings surrounding the abandoned compound, setting up weapons, preparing firing positions. By 0800 hours, Gabriella had counted 32 insurgents armed with AK-47s, PKM machine guns, RPG-7 rocket launchers, and what looked like a Soviet-era Dragunov sniper rifle. They were setting up an ambush. She keyed her radio. "Overwatch 7 to Ranger 2-4. I have visual on enemy forces staging an industrial district. Count 3-2 hostiles, heavy weapons, preparing ambush positions around Compound Delta. Recommend you abort approach and reroute. Static." Then fragmented response. "Ranger 2-4. Copy. Interference heavy. Continuing to checkpoint." The urban terrain was blocking radio communications. They hadn't received her warning clearly, and the patrol was still moving toward the compound where the ambush waited. Gabriella tried again. Overwatch 7 to any Ranger element. Enemy ambush prepared at Compound Delta. Repeat, do not approach Compound Delta. More static. Partial acknowledgement. Not enough to confirm they understood the danger. At 0830 hours, Thompson's patrol entered the compound through the southern gate, seeking a defensible position to conduct their planned communications check with headquarters. The insurgents waited with professional discipline, letting all 12 Rangers enter the compound before triggering the ambush. The first RPG came from the northern building, striking the compound wall and showering the Rangers with concrete fragments. Then, every insurgent position opened fire simultaneously, a coordinated storm of bullets and rockets that turned the compound into a killing zone. The Rangers responded instantly, taking cover behind concrete barriers and vehicles, returning fire. But they were outnumbered nearly 3-1, surrounded on all sides with no clear escape route. That's when Thompson's desperate radio transmission cut through. Enemies everywhere. Gabriella had already acquired her first target. Insurgent fighter on the rooftop of the northern building, 520 meters, operating a PKM machine gun that was raking the compound with sustained fire. He was partially exposed, leaning around a ventilation housing to get a firing angle. Gabriella's crosshairs settled on his center mass. Wind was light, maybe 2 miles per hour from the west. Range was confirmed, elevation calculated. She let out half a breath, found her natural pause, and squeezed. The M110 fired with a suppressed crack. Through her scope, she saw the fighter jerk backward and collapse. The PKM went silent. 1 down, 31 to go. Gabriella transitioned smoothly to her next target, RPG gunner, eastern building, 485 meters, preparing to fire another rocket into the compound. She led him slightly as he moved, fired, and watched him fall before he could launch. 2 down. Third target, insurgent commander on the western building rooftop, 540 meters, directing fighters with hand signals and radio. Gabriella's round caught him high in the chest. He dropped, and the radio fell from his hand. 3 down. The Rangers in the compound were fighting desperately, but Gabriella's intervention was already changing the engagement dynamics. Insurgents, who'd been confidently pouring fire into the compound, were suddenly dying from an invisible shooter, struck down without warning from outside the city. Fourth target, PKM gunner, southern position, 505 meters, down. Fifth target, Dragunov sniper on the northeastern roof, 610 meters, the most dangerous threat to both Rangers and to Gabriella herself. She spotted him through thermal shimmer, took extra time to ensure the shot, and fired. The enemy sniper crumpled behind his rifle, 5 down in 90 seconds. In the compound, Sergeant First Class Bradley Thompson coordinated his team's defense. He was 36 from Georgia, 14 years in the Army, 10 in regiment. Battle-hardened, experienced, exactly the kind of NCO who could hold a team together when everything went to hell. His face was weathered from years in the desert sun, his movements economical and precise, even under fire. "Second team, suppress that eastern building," he shouted over the gunfire, his southern accent thickening under stress. "First team, prepare smoke for withdrawal." Specialist Andre Foster, 24, from Brooklyn, on his third deployment, was laying down covering fire with his M4 when he noticed the change. The former college football player moved with surprising agility for his size, ducking behind cover as rounds cracked overhead. "Sergeant! Those PKM positions are going quiet. Something's different." Sergeant Logan Hayes, 27, from Montana, the team's breacher and demolitions expert, pointed at the northern building with his free hand while maintaining his weapon with the other. His calm under fire came from growing up hunting in the Rockies, where patience and precision were second nature. "That machine gunner just dropped. Nobody from our position hit him. Round came from outside." Thompson understood immediately. Someone was out there, providing overwatch they hadn't known they had. He keyed his radio. "Any friendly sniper elements on our position?" Gabriella's calm voice came back. "Overwatch 7. I have your position, Ranger 2-4. Continue engaging targets in your immediate area. I'm clearing the outer perimeter. Thompson felt hope surge through his chest. A sniper. Thank God. Overwatch 7, we have 12 Rangers pinned in Compound Delta, multiple casualties, need to extract ASAP. Roger, 2-4, I'm working the problem. Keep your heads down. Gabriella continued her systematic dismantling of the ambush. Her training had programmed her to prioritize heavy weapons first, then leadership, then anyone threatening friendly forces. She executed the plan with mechanical precision. 6th target, RPG team, northern building, 530 meters. Gunner down. Loader fled without the weapon. 7th target, fighter with AK-47 attempting to flank the compound from the east, 445 meters. Down before he reached his position. 8th target, PKM gunner who'd repositioned to southern building, 525 meters. Down. But the insurgents weren't giving up. Having realized a sniper was destroying their ambush, several fighters began trying to locate Gabriella's position. Bullets started hitting rocks around her ridge, kicking up dust and stone chips as they fired blind toward the high ground. Gabriella didn't flinch. She'd been under fire before. Incoming rounds cracked overhead or sparked off rocks, but her position was well chosen with excellent cover. She continued engaging targets with disciplined precision. 9th target, fighter with binoculars on western roof, 555 meters, trying to spot her. She eliminated him before he could identify her exact location. 10th target, insurgent attempting to move an RPG to a better firing position, 490 meters, down. 11th target, fighter coordinating others via radio, 510 meters, down. In the compound, Thompson was organizing a fighting withdrawal. The Rangers moved in coordinated teams, one group providing covering fire while another prepared to move. Classic infantry tactics executed under extreme pressure. Corporal Tyler Blake, 22, from Texas, youngest in the patrol and newest to regiment, was terrified but functioning, his training overriding the fear that threatened to freeze him. His hands shook slightly as he changed magazines, but he kept his rifle steady, firing controlled bursts at muzzle flashes in the buildings. He'd grown up on a ranch and knew how to shoot, but this was different from shooting coyotes back home. Staff Sergeant Vincent Ramirez, 33, from California, veteran of 4 deployments, weapons squad leader, directed his machine gunner with hand signals while simultaneously coordinating with Thompson via radio. His tactical vest was scorched from a near-miss RPG, but he ignored the close call, focused entirely on getting his team out alive. He'd seen too many Rangers die in ambushes. This wasn't going to be another one. Pop smoke, Thompson ordered. White smoke grenades deployed, creating a screen between the Rangers and insurgent positions. The compound filled with swirling white clouds that obscured vision, but also provided the Rangers cover to reposition. Gabriella watched the smoke billowing up from the compound and adjusted her tactics. The smoke made direct observation difficult, but she could still see muzzle flashes from insurgent positions outside the cloud. She continued engaging targets at the perimeter. 12th target, fighter attempting to move closer to the compound under cover of smoke, 455 meters. She caught him between buildings, down. 13th target, PKM position that had relocated to northeastern building, 595 meters, down. Thompson's voice on radio. Overwatch 7, we're preparing to move to the western wall for breach and extract. Can you suppress the western positions? Roger 2-4, I have clear lines on western building. Any enemy that shows themselves, I'll drop them. Understood. Moving in 30 seconds. Gabriella shifted her aim to the western building, scanning through her scope for targets. She spotted 3 insurgents repositioning on the roof, preparing to fire down at the Rangers' planned escape route. She engaged rapidly. 3 shots in 8 seconds, 3 targets down. The insurgents' plan to ambush the Rangers' withdrawal was eliminated before it could execute. Western roof clear, Gabriella transmitted. You're good to move. The Rangers advanced through the smoke toward the western wall, moving in textbook fire and maneuver formations. Ramirez's machine gun team laid down suppressive fire while assault teams bounded forward in 3 to 5 second rushes. Gabriella covered their movement, her crosshairs tracking across rooftops and windows, looking for any threat. Movement at 520 meters, insurgent with RPG appearing in a window. She fired before he could aim. Down. Movement at 485 meters, fighter trying to get angle on the moving Rangers, down before he could fire. The Rangers reached the western wall. Sergeant Hayes, the team's breacher, placed a charge on the wall while others provided security. His hands were steady as he set the DT cord, muscle memory from dozens of breaches taking over. The explosion blew a hole large enough for men to pass through single file. "Breaching!" Thompson called. Rangers poured through the hole into the alley beyond, establishing a security perimeter. The wounded were carried through, 3 men with shrapnel injuries from the initial RPG strikes, none critical, but all needing medical attention. Corporal Blake helped carry one of the wounded, his fear forgotten in the urgency of saving his brothers. But the insurgents weren't letting them escape easily. Fighters from the southern positions were moving to intercept, trying to cut off the Rangers in the narrow alleys of the industrial district. Gabriella spotted the movement. 2-4, you have approximately 8 hostiles moving to intercept from your south, range 200 meters from your position. They're trying to block your extract route. "Can you engage?" Thompson asked. "Negative, they're too close to your position and buildings are blocking my line of sight. You'll have to handle them directly." "Roger. All elements, hostiles approaching from south." The Rangers set up a hasty ambush in the alley. When the 8 insurgents came around the corner, they walked directly into a wall of precisely aimed rifle fire from prepared positions. Foster's size and strength allowed him to hold his M4 rock steady, putting controlled pairs into targets with devastating accuracy. Hayes had positioned himself at a critical angle, catching the insurgents in a crossfire they couldn't escape. The brief firefight lasted 15 seconds. All 8 insurgents went down, and the Rangers continued their withdrawal. They moved through the industrial district toward the desert edge where they could link up with the quick reaction force that was finally approaching from FOB Kalsu. Gabriella maintained overwatch, scanning for threats, covering their movement. A group of 5 insurgents on a rooftop tried to engage the withdrawing Rangers. Gabriella eliminated 3 of them in rapid succession at ranges between 540 and 580 meters. The remaining 2 abandoned their position and fled. Thompson's patrol reached the edge of the industrial district and took up defensive positions in a cleared area, waiting for vehicle extract. They'd successfully broken contact with the enemy, all 12 Rangers still alive despite being trapped in a kill zone for 23 minutes. Gabriella had one more task to complete. Back in the industrial district, remaining insurgents were regrouping, potentially preparing to pursue the Rangers or ambush the incoming QRF. She couldn't let that happen. She methodically engaged targets still visible in the compound area and surrounding buildings. PKM team attempting to relocate, both men down at 515 meters. 3 fighters gathered in discussion, probably leaders planning their next move. All 3 down in 5 seconds at 495 meters. Insurgent attempting to recover weapons from fallen comrades, down at 530 meters. By the time the QRF vehicles arrived, 4 strikers with a full platoon, the ambush site was quiet. Gabriella had fired 127 rounds and achieved 38 confirmed enemy kills, with 11 additional probable kills from targets she'd engaged but couldn't confirm due to smoke and distance. The ambush force of 32 had been reduced to scattered survivors fleeing into the city. Thompson's voice came over radio. "Overwatch 7, this is Ranger 2-4. All personnel accounted for, casualties are stable, preparing for vehicle extract. Request you join us at pickup point for return to base." "Roger 2-4, moving to your location now." Gabriella cleared and secured her rifle, packed her gear, and began the 2-kilometer movement to the Ranger position. It took 40 minutes to cover the distance, moving carefully through the rocky desert terrain. When she arrived, the Rangers were loading into the strikers. Thompson approached immediately, his face showing exhaustion, relief, and profound gratitude. Despite the dirt and sweat covering him, his bearing remained professional, but his eyes betrayed the emotion he felt. "Staff Sergeant Cooper," he said, extending his hand with a grip that was firm despite his fatigue. "I don't know how to thank you. We were dead. That ambush was professional, coordinated, well-planned. We were outnumbered 3-1 with no way out. He paused, his voice thick. Then you started shooting, and everything changed. Gabriella shook his hand. That's the job, Sergeant. Overwatch means keeping you alive. I just did what I was trained to do. 38 confirmed kills in 23 minutes. You didn't just provide Overwatch, you single-handedly broke their ambush and saved 12 Rangers. Corporal Blake approached, his young face showing the strain of his first serious combat. His hands were still shaking slightly from adrenaline, but he stood tall, meeting Gabriella's eyes. Ma'am, I was sure we weren't making it out. I'm not going to lie, I was scared. When those machine guns went quiet and the RPG team stopped firing, I realized someone was up there shooting for us. His voice cracked slightly. Thank you for bringing us home, for keeping me alive to see my family again. Staff Sergeant Ramirez joined them, his tactical vest still showing scorch marks. His weathered face broke into a grateful smile. Cooper, I've worked with snipers from every branch, SEALS, Marines, Delta, you name it. What you did today was beyond extraordinary. The precision under fire, the speed of engagement, the target priority. You didn't just support us, you saved us. You changed an impossible situation into a survivable one. He extended his fist, and Gabriella bumped it. Respect. Sergeant Hayes, the quiet demolitions expert, approached last. He'd seen plenty of combat in his years, and his Montana Reserve typically kept him from emotional displays. But today was different. Ma'am, I've been doing this job for 8 years. I've seen Rangers die in ambushes just like that one. The only reason we're standing here talking is because you were on that ridge. You didn't miss. You didn't hesitate. You just kept shooting until we were safe. He nodded with deep respect. You're a true Ranger. Thank you. Specialist Foster, the big former football player, came over with a grin despite his exhaustion. Staff Sergeant, I owe you a beer. Hell, I owe you a whole case. You just gave me the chance to go home and see my girl. Maybe start that family we've been talking about. I won't forget this. Gabriella looked at the 12 Rangers, tired, dirty, some wounded, but all alive. Every one of them would go home to their families, their futures, their lives, because she'd been on that ridge today. The weight of that responsibility and the satisfaction of meeting it filled her chest. Rangers lead the way. I just make sure the path is clear. That's what we do for each other. We watch out for our brothers and sisters. Always. Thompson's voice was gruff with emotion. You're one of us, Cooper. Not because of the tab on your shoulder, but because you proved it today. When we needed someone most, you were there. That's what being a Ranger means. The convoy back to Forward Kalsu moved through the Iraqi desert, the strikers maintaining security formation, gunners scanning for threats. Gabriella rode in Thompson's vehicle, her rifle secured, finally allowing herself to feel the exhaustion from 30 hours without sleep and sustained combat. Her shoulder was bruised from rifle recoil, her eyes were strained from hours behind the scope, and her body ached from maintaining prone position on the rocky ridge. Thompson sat across from her, studying her with curiosity and respect. Can I ask you something? When you saw that ambush being set up this morning, when you realized we were walking into it and communications were too broken to warn us effectively, what were you thinking? Gabriella considered the question carefully. I was thinking about how to maximize effectiveness from my position, counting targets, identifying priority threats, calculating ranges and angles. I was thinking about which targets to engage first to cause maximum disruption to their plan. Heavy weapons had to go first. Those PKMS and RPGs could wipe out the entire patrol in seconds. Then leadership. Take out whoever was coordinating them. Then anyone who presented an immediate threat to you guys. Not about the odds. Not about facing 32 insurgents essentially alone. The math was never me versus 32. It was 12 Rangers plus 1 sniper versus an ambush force that didn't know I was there. Surprise is a force multiplier, so is precision and elevated position. I knew if I could take out their heavy weapons and leadership quickly enough, disrupt their coordination, you guys could handle the rest. You're Rangers. You trained for this. You just needed someone to even the odds a bit. Thompson smiled, shaking his head in amazement. A bit. You call reducing their force by 2/3 evening the odds a bit. You Rangers snipers are a different breed. Ice water in your veins. Just training and experience. Fear is information. It tells you the stakes matter and you need to be at your best. You acknowledge it, then you compartmentalize it and do your job. I couldn't afford to be afraid when you guys were depending on me. Hayes, sitting nearby, spoke up. What was going through your head with each shot? Were you thinking about the person you were shooting, or just the target? Gabriella was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. I'm thinking about you guys, about keeping you alive. The targets are threats to my brothers, and eliminating threats is my job. I'm not thinking about the person. I'm thinking about the weapon system they're operating, the danger they represent, and the most efficient way to neutralize that danger. That's how I can do this job without it destroying me, by focusing on protecting my team rather than on taking lives. Foster leaned forward. How do you stay so calm? I mean, you were taking fire. Bullets were hitting all around your position. How do you not panic? Training, Gabriella said simply. Thousands of hours of training until the movements become automatic. Your body knows what to do even when your conscious mind might want to panic. And experience. This wasn't my first firefight. I've learned to trust my training and my position. I knew that ridge provided good cover, that my camouflage was effective, that the insurgents were firing blind at my general area without having a precise fix on my location. So I stayed calm, stayed in position, and kept working the problem. Blake, the youngest ranger, asked quietly, Does it ever get easier? The fear, I mean. I was terrified today. Gabriella looked at him with understanding. Fear is normal. It's healthy. It keeps you alert and focused. The fear never really goes away. You just get better at functioning with it. What changes is your confidence in your training and your team. You learn to trust that you've been prepared for these situations, that your brothers have your back, and that if you do your job, you'll make it through. She paused. You did good today, Blake. You stayed in the fight, you followed orders, you took care of your teammates. That's all anyone can ask. The debriefing at FOB Kalsu lasted 5 hours. Gabriella sat across from Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Henderson, the battalion commander, a combat veteran with 18 years of service who'd come up through intelligence before transitioning to command, along with the operations officer, Major David Kim, and the senior intelligence analyst, Captain Rachel Foster. They walked through every detail of the engagement with methodical precision. Gabriella used aerial photographs to show her position, the insurgent positions, her fields of fire, and each target she'd engaged. Captain Foster cross-referenced her account with signals intelligence, drone footage, and after-action reports from Thompson's patrol. 38 confirmed kills, Major Kim said, studying the data with evident amazement. His analytical mind was struggling to process the numbers. Average engagement range of 520 meters, combat duration of 23 minutes under active fire directed at your position, 94% hit rate under combat conditions. He looked up at Gabriella, his usually reserved demeanor showing genuine awe. Staff Sergeant, these are exceptional numbers by any standard. Some of the best I've seen in 20 years of reviewing combat actions. I had a good position and clear targets, sir. The ridge gave me elevation advantage, clear sight lines, and good cover. The insurgents were focused on the compound, not on the possibility of a sniper outside the urban area. Colonel Henderson leaned forward, her sharp eyes assessing Gabriella with the analytical intensity that had made her an excellent intelligence officer. Gabriella, I've reviewed your entire service record. 5 years in regiment, 4 deployments, consistently outstanding performance ratings across every metric we track. What you did today demonstrates not just technical proficiency, but tactical judgment, coolness under fire, and absolute commitment to your teammates. She paused for emphasis. I'm recommending you for the Bronze Star with Valor device. Your actions directly saved 12 Rangers who would almost certainly have been killed or captured in that ambush. Thank you, ma'am. I was just doing my job as their overwatch. Your job is being a sniper, Henderson replied firmly. What you did today went far beyond that. You made rapid tactical decisions in a fluid situation, adapted to changing battlefield conditions, maintained precision while under direct fire from multiple positions, and quite literally changed the outcome of an engagement single-handedly. You demonstrated exactly the kind of warrior ethos we need in the regiment. Thompson, who'd been sitting quietly during the formal debrief, spoke up. Colonel, if I may, there's a tactical and cultural element here worth noting for the record. That ambush was set up by professionals. The positioning, the coordination, the timing, the patience to wait for complete target acquisition. This wasn't random insurgents or amateurs. This was a trained force executing a carefully planned operation designed to wipe out an American patrol. Staff Sergeant Cooper defeated that plan through superior skill, superior tactics, and superior determination. She adapted faster than they could react, she prioritized targets better than they could coordinate, and she maintained effectiveness under fire when they were trying to suppress her. She's a credit to the regiment and a perfect example of the kind of warrior we're trying to develop. Henderson nodded thoughtfully. Agreed. Gabriella, I'm also recommending you for accelerated promotion to Sergeant First Class and eventual assignment as a senior sniper instructor and team leader. The regiment needs operators with your level of expertise, not just in the field, but developing the next generation of snipers. You have the technical skills, the combat experience, and clearly the teaching ability to make a real difference in how we train our people. 4 weeks later, Gabriella was back in the Iraqi desert on another ridge overlooking another city, but this time she wasn't alone. Private First Class Isaiah Wright, 21, from Louisiana, newly qualified as a ranger sniper after graduating from sniper school just 2 months ago, was positioned beside her with his own M110, learning the practical application of skills he'd only practiced on training ranges. They were providing overwatch for a patrol moving through the outskirts of Ramadi, and Gabriella was teaching Wright to read terrain, spot patterns, identify threats before they materialized into active danger. Wright was eager, talented, but inexperienced, exactly the kind of young sniper who needed combat mentorship to develop into an effective operator. What do you see? Gabriella asked quietly, both of them scanning through their scopes in the early morning light. I see the patrol moving up Route Michigan, Wright answered, his Louisiana drawl soft with concentration. I see civilians on the street going about their morning routines. Some vehicles, traffic pattern looks normal for this time of day. Look closer. Third building on the left, second floor window facing the street. Wright adjusted his scope, studying the window carefully. I see... Wait, is that curtain moving? There's no wind today and the window's closed. Someone's behind it. Excellent catch. Someone's watching the patrol from concealment. Could be innocent civilian curiosity, could be a spotter for an attack. What do we do? Wright thought carefully, remembering his training. Monitor but don't engage yet. Mark the position. Watch for additional indicators of hostile intent. Maintain awareness. Correct. Good judgment. Patience is as important as precision in this job. We don't shoot unless we have clear hostile intent. Keep eyes on that window and tell me if the situation develops. For the next hour, Gabriella walked right through practical observation techniques, how to differentiate between normal civilian activity and tactical preparation, how to spot weapons being concealed under clothing, how to identify insurgent communication patterns and pre-attack positioning, how to read body language and movement that indicated hostile intent. When a suspicious vehicle approached the patrol, a white sedan driving slowly with multiple occupants, scanning their surroundings in a way that suggested reconnaissance rather than normal travel, Wright spotted it first. Vehicle approaching from the south, he reported, his voice steady despite the adrenaline. Behavior is anomalous. Speed is too slow for normal traffic. Occupants are conducting visual surveillance of the patrol. Could be pre-attack reconnaissance. Good observation. Range it 485 meters. Wind 3 miles per hour, right to left based on the dust patterns. What's your call on engagement? Wright thought carefully, weighing the factors. Monitor but don't engage yet. Could still be innocent civilians being cautious around American forces. Wait for positive threat indicators before committing to lethal force. Correct decision. Patience and good judgment. We have rules of engagement for a reason. We need positive identification of hostile intent before we shoot. Keep tracking them. The vehicle passed the patrol without incident. It had been suspicious but ultimately non-threatening, just nervous civilians being careful around armed soldiers. Wright learned a valuable lesson. Not every anomaly requires engagement, and good judgment means knowing when not to shoot. But 20 minutes later, when two men on a rooftop began setting up what was clearly an RPG-7 rocket launcher, Wright identified them immediately. Contact, rooftop position, 610 meters. Two men with confirmed RPG-7. They're preparing to fire on our patrol. Good identification. You have authorization to engage. You have the shot when ready. Wright controlled his breathing exactly as Gabriella had taught him, calculated his hold for distance and wind, and fired. Through her scope, Gabriella watched the first man, the gunner, jerk backward and fall from the rooftop. Wright transitioned smoothly to the second target, the loader, and fired again. Both threats neutralized before they could fire a single rocket at the patrol below. Both hits confirmed, Gabriella said. Excellent shooting. You just saved American lives. How do you feel? Wright was breathing hard from adrenaline, his hands shaking slightly from the intensity of his first combat engagement, but his face showed determination and confidence. Like I just made a real difference, like the training was worth it. It was, and you did. 9 Rangers down in that patrol, 9 of our brothers, are alive right now because you identified a threat and neutralized it before it could hurt them. That's what this job is about. Not glory or medals or body counts, just protecting our teammates and making sure they go home to their families. She paused. You did well today, Wright. Trust your training, trust your judgment, and you'll be a damn good sniper. 6 months later, back at Fort Benning, Georgia, Gabriella stood in formation receiving her Bronze Star. The citation was read aloud to the assembled unit for heroic achievement during combat operations against enemy forces in Iraq. Staff Sergeant Gabriella Cooper distinguished herself through exceptional courage and skill when a Ranger patrol was ambushed by a numerically superior enemy force in the city of Mahmoudiya. From an overwatch position on an exposed ridge under direct enemy fire, Staff Sergeant Cooper engaged 32 enemy fighters over a sustained 23-minute engagement, achieving 38 confirmed kills through precise long-range fire and breaking the ambush through superior marksmanship and tactical skill. Her actions while under direct enemy fire from multiple positions directly saved the lives of 12 Rangers and demonstrated extraordinary valor in the face of overwhelming odds. Staff Sergeant Cooper's performance reflects the highest traditions of military service and brings great credit upon herself, the 75th Ranger Regiment, and the United States Army. Thompson attended the ceremony, along with Ramirez, Hayes, Foster, and Blake, the Rangers she'd saved that day in Mahmoudiya. Afterward, they gathered informally in the warm Georgia sunshine. You know your story's being told at Ranger School now, right? Ramirez said with a grin. The sniper who appeared through the smoke and dismantled an entire ambush to save a patrol. You're a legend now. The instructors use you as an example of what one determined soldier can accomplish with the right skills and the will to use them. Being a sniper isn't about the longest shot or the highest body count or the medals on your chest, she'd explained to each new class of aspiring snipers. It's about being the person your teammates trust to make the difference when everything's on the line. It's about the discipline to stay calm when others are panicking, the skill to be precise when others are spraying bullets and hoping for hits, and the dedication to protect your brothers and sisters, no matter what the odds look like on paper. And when students would ask about the fear of being outnumbered, of being under fire yourself, of having 12 lives depending on your precision, she'd smile slightly and say what she always said. Fear is just information. It tells you the stakes are high and your job matters. You acknowledge it, you respect it, then you set it aside and focus on what you can control. Your breathing, your aim, your trigger pull, your target selection. Because somewhere down in that valley or that city or that compound, Rangers are fighting for their lives and they're counting on you to be absolutely perfect when it matters most. That's not pressure. That's purpose. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales of courage.